Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tep. I'm glad you made it. Wanted to talk to you about the changes that are coming from the VA with regard to the rating schedules. So the rating schedule changes that are looming, they're going to be happening, but are you grandfathered in is a lot of times the question that I see. Now, we're going to dive into that, but look, this is not a one-size-fits-all audience, right? Some people are already rated for things. Some people want to maybe file for an increase after a rating change. Some people are thinking about filing a claim for the first time. Some people are still in the military getting ready to transition out. So I'm going to kind of touch a little bit on that as we kind of flow through. Before we do, I want to throw on a special thank you to Paul LaRoche. Paul LaRoche, I really appreciate your super comment, super chat so very much. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. Paul LaRoche 3117. Thank you so much for your ability to do that. I really appreciate you. All right, so as we think about the rating schedule changes coming into effect, primarily what we're looking at now are auditory, respiratory, mental health, and neurological. Those four. So those four rating changes are coming. Now, again, this is not a one-size-fits-all because, again, you might have somebody who's thinking, oh, I need to file now, excuse me, for sleep apnea before the rating schedule changes for the worst. Or you might have somebody that says, hey, I'm looking forward to the mental health rating schedule change because I think I could obtain a higher rating based on my symptoms. So with that, let's dive into it here. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. Every minute watched and every thumbs up helps the channel, and I really do appreciate all of your support. So grandfathering in, there's no words of grandfathered. The grandfather doesn't exist. It doesn't say grandfathered. We all understand what the meaning is, but it doesn't say that actual word. So I pulled up the actual information here on the CFR, Code of Federal Regulations, in the M21 and in public law. So 3, you get the trifecta of different versions. They all kind of say the same thing, but a little bit different. So I'm going to share that with you. Before we get into that, let's just quickly talk about the rating schedule changes here, not diving into them individually, but just kind of an overview with a couple little examples here. The VA has kicked the can down the road on a few of them. We're looking at April as a potential effective date or final date, according to the VA updating their information on these proposed changes. Now, the two of them that are often talked about in any case are sleep apnea and mental health. Sleep apnea, if you're currently rated for sleep apnea and you're prescribed a CPAP, that's a 50% rating. If you are not currently rated for sleep apnea, you might want to go ahead and file an intent to file or file the claim now before the rating change goes into effect. It's just a smart thing to do because if the rating schedule changes and you have sleep apnea today, but you wait until the change to file for it, well, now in the proposed change for sleep apnea, you would be looking at, okay, well, if you get prescribed a CPAP, well, if the treatment is deemed adequate, you get a 0% rating. So it's a tremendous difference in rating that people need to be aware of. We don't know how much time we're going to get from the VA as far as kind of a warno, if you will. We don't know how much time we're going to get to know. This is going to go into effect next week or next month or in 2 months. We'll find out as we get closer for sure. So if you're already rated, you should be good. If you're not rated, you should probably file an intent to file or file your claim. If you have a claim that transcends the rating schedule change, okay, you filed a claim, the rating change happened, and then you got your claim awarded, the VA is supposed to rate you against both rating schedules and give you the more favorable of the two. Just important to note. And let's talk about the mental health. So mental health, they're changing from one big bucket of criteria with limitations due to your ability to work and requirements in order to reach that 100%, stating essentially that you have to be socially and occupationally impaired. And they're removing some of those requirements. They're now making it into 5 different domains. different kind of portions of your life, if you will, and rating each one of those individually, and then combined looking at your overall individual ratings and then assigning a actual percentage rating. Now, this, I think, will be good for the majority of people that have mental health ratings. And I think that if you have the appropriate evidence, you must go get evidence. Otherwise, nothing happens, right? You're going to have to go, ideally, go get a DBQ. Go have a conversation with your doctor. If your doctor can't or won't, then utilize another service, right? I've reached out to AME, American Medical Experts. They offer a free consultation. Have a conversation, right? I don't care who you use, but you must have evidence. So if your doctor can't do it or won't do it, you need to do something because this is your benefit. Take the time to figure it out wherever you go and get the evidence you need. Those 5 domains, right? Just for an example, if you are a level 3 impairment, 4 is the highest. If you're a level 3 and 2 of the 5, that's 100% rating. I'm not diving into that. I've done this before on other videos. I'm trying to get to your protected part. So it's just important to know where you're at and where you're going. All right. If you file an intent to file or you have a claim in process and it transcends the timeline, they rate you on both. Now, if you're rated and your effective date is prior to the rating schedule change, are you grandfathered in? Let's talk about it. Under CFR 3.951 alpha, it's under the preservation of disability ratings. A readjustment to the schedule of ratings of disabilities shall not be grounds for reduction of a disability rating in effect on the date of the readjustment unless medical evidence establishes that the disability to be evaluated has actually improved. All right. The really, really important part here is that the disability rating shall not be grounds, the rating schedule change shall not be grounds for reduction of a disability rating in effect on the date of the readjustment. A rating that has been in effect at the date that the rating schedule changed. Okay, they're not saying that you were actually being paid at that time. In a weird way you can. But let me explain this. You filed your intent to file. Okay, time's going by, 6 months. 6 months goes by, the rating schedule gets changed. You then file a claim, your claim gets decided. Now you're approved for whatever rating you had, right? Your effective date is the date of your intent to file in 8% of the time, right? So your effective date, not your award date, your effective date, right? Not when you got your letter saying, hey, we've granted you service connection, but when did you back pay me to, right? How far are we going back? Because that's my effective date. Your effective date is what is going to buy you that protection. So that is the most important piece, is the effective date. As long as you have an effective date that's prior to the rating schedule change. All right, let's shift over to the M21. So in here, the last change they made to this was back in 2015. And the title, I'm just going to skip kind of some of this. The title is Protection Against Rating Schedule Changes under the 38 CFR 3.951 alpha. So they're referencing the CFR, and this is in the manual, right, the M21. And in here, it also makes a reference to public law. All right, so Public Law 102-86 states that a rating evaluation cannot be reduced solely because of a change to the rating schedule subsequent to August 13th, 1991, 38 CFR 3.951 alpha. Provides that a readjustment to the schedule of rating disability shall not be grounds for reduction of a disability rating in effect on the date of readjustment unless medical evidence establishes that the disability to be evaluated has actually improved. All right, so then it's basically doubling down, and it makes it also, in addition to the double down of the 38 CFR, it also pulls up the public law. Awesome. So this is, again, the manual, and that's it's good that it's in there. So essentially they are stating again that if your effective date for your specific condition, let's use sleep apnea, was prior to the change, they cannot reduce you simply based on the rating schedule changing. All right. Last one that I pulled up here, which is the 38 U.S. Code 1155. Okay. This is authority for scheduling or authority for schedule for rating disabilities. Leave it, whatever. Great title. Anyway, so on here, I'm going to, it's kind of, well, I'll just go through the whole thing. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's 12 lines long or so, and it's really kind of the second half that's a little more relevant, but we'll just go through the whole piece here. So the secretary, they're speaking about the Veterans Affairs Secretary. So the secretary shall adopt and apply a schedule of ratings of reductions in earning capacities from specific injuries or combination of injuries. The ratings shall be based as far as practicable upon the average impairments of earning capacity resulting from such injuries in civil occupations. The schedule shall be constructed so as to provide 10 grades of disability and no more, upon which payments of compensation shall be based, namely the 10, and it goes through them all, 10, 20, 30, 40, up to 100%. The secretary shall from time to time readjust the schedule of ratings in accordance with experience. However, in no event shall a readjustment in rating schedule cause a veteran's disability in effect on the effective date of the readjustment to be reduced unless an improvement in the veteran's disability is shown to have occurred. All right, so what they're saying in here, and I'm going to kind of dive in on this last part, the part where it says, unless an improvement in the veteran's disability is shown to have occurred. What they're not saying is what they're not saying is that your disability is less based on the new schedule. I'm trying to think of a good way to explain this. Let's just give the example here. So we're going to use CPAP, sleep apnea. So you have sleep apnea. You're prescribed a CPAP. You still have a CPAP. Nothing has changed with regard to your condition or the severity. The rating schedule changed. And now you would warrant a lower rating if you were rated against that new schedule. But they can't simply change you because of the rating schedule. And in this case, your symptoms have not improved. So they're not going to change you based on that new schedule. Now, if all of a sudden you magically do not need a CPAP, right? If somehow magically, boom, you're healed, you no longer have sleep apnea, or it's super minor and you no longer need a CPAP for some weird reason, right? Magic fairy dust. Then they would reduce you because, well, you don't have a CPAP anymore, so you can't be a 50%. So this is what I'm reading in this. The only thing that I would really like for them to add, and them being, I guess, well, either the VA in some cases, as they're putting together the manual, but for the 38 CFR and public law and that type of stuff, which is where they pull all this information from in order to create the manuals, is maybe one more line that says that a veteran would be held accountable to the current rating schedule that they were assigned to. Not the current, that would be the wrong way, I guess. The original rating schedule, unless the new rating schedule is more favorable. Something like that. So if we could have a line in there that said something like, veteran shall be rated against the original rating schedule unless the new rating schedule is more favorable. So in other words, you kind of get to play both sides of the fence there. in the event you want to go for an increase or something like that. I think it would be nice to have a little bit of protection. I didn't really think about it too much until we got here. So with that, I'm going to be reaching out to some congressional members and thinking about some language that we can maybe add and see if anybody wants to bite on that and take it. I encourage you to do the same. I don't need to be the only person trying to share the information. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.